The assassin had spent years perfecting his craft, a ghost in the galaxy's darkest corners. His reputation was forged in blood, ruthless, efficient, and above all, detached. He took jobs from the highest bidders, intergalactic governments, powerful corporations, and shadowy criminal organizations. He killed without hesitation, always with precision, never questioning the motives behind his targets. A job was a job. His latest contract seemed straightforward. A human, marked for execution. A mere nuisance in the grand scheme of the galaxy. His employers didn't give much detail, but that wasn't unusual. It wasn't his concern to know why. He had learned long ago that asking questions led to unnecessary complications. He followed the faint traces of the human's movements through the outer rim. The target had been hiding, evading detection for months. The assassin's instincts told him this wouldn't be a simple kill. He had faced countless humans before, fragile creatures, outmatched in every way by the galaxy's more advanced species. This human, though, was different. There was something strange about the way they slipped through the cracks, how they had managed to stay off the radar for so long. The assassin finally found the information he was looking for. He located the human's hideout, a modest, isolated structure on a barren planet. As he sifted through the data, he stumbled upon the target's name. It stopped him cold. The name was one he had heard whispered in ancient texts, one tied to a prophecy. The Chosen One. The human was supposed to be the key to a future that could reshape the galaxy, for better or worse. The name sent a shock through the assassin. He had heard the legend in passing during his younger years, old stories passed down by his ancestors, stories about a human who would either destroy or save the galaxy. He had never believed them, dismissing them as mere myth. But now, staring at the name, he realized the legend was real. This human, this insignificant target, was at the center of something much bigger than anyone had ever imagined. His mission had just become more complicated. The assassin was trained to follow orders without question, but this revelation forced him to pause. Could he still kill this person, knowing their role in the galaxy's fate? He wasn't sure what to do. He had always followed the rules, but now the lines between right and wrong seemed blurred. He wasn't prepared for this. The assassin took a moment to collect his thoughts. He had never questioned his orders before. But something inside him, something deep and primal, told him that the galaxy would change because of this human. Either they would be killed and the galaxy would continue its slow march toward destruction, or they would live, and everything would be different. It wasn't just about the job anymore, it was about something much larger. The assassin decided to meet the target. Not to kill, but to understand. He needed to see if the human truly was the one from the prophecy. His curiosity got the better of him. He couldn't just let this person die without knowing the truth. He found the human alone in a dilapidated structure. The human was unassuming, sitting in the shadows, their face hidden from view. They didn't seem particularly extraordinary, just a person trying to survive in a galaxy that didn't care about them. But when they spoke, something in the air shifted. There was an aura of power around them, subtle but unmistakable. The assassin's instincts, usually so sharp, told him that this was no ordinary being. The human didn't seem surprised by his presence. They had been expecting him. And they weren't afraid. "I know who you are," the human said calmly. "And I know what you've been sent to do." The assassin hesitated. "You're not afraid?" "I'm not afraid of death," the human replied. "I've known it was coming for me for a long time. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let it happen without a fight." The assassin studied them closely. There was no fear in their eyes, no desperation. Just a quiet resolve. He wasn't sure what to make of it. The human spoke with an eerie certainty, as if they knew the future. The assassin's mind raced. Was this person really the chosen one? The one from the prophecy? And if so, why had they been hiding? "I don't want to die," the human continued, "but if it's my fate, so be it. I'm not the one who's important. It's the galaxy that needs to change. I can only do so much." The assassin's brow furrowed. "What do you mean by that?" The prophecy is real, the human said. But it's not just about me. It's about the galaxy. The ones in power have tried to silence the prophecy, to erase my existence, because they know that if I fulfill it, they lose everything. They don't control the future anymore. The assassin listened intently, his thoughts swirling. The human was speaking with a wisdom that was far beyond their years. But the assassin knew something the human didn't. He had been hired to eliminate them. And now, he was listening to them talk about reshaping the galaxy. The situation was more complicated than he had ever imagined. He had always been a tool, used by those with power to eliminate threats. But now, he saw that the real threat wasn't this human, it was the forces that sought to control them. The assassin's mind raced. Could he really kill someone who had the power to change everything? He was no longer sure. The decision weighed heavily on him. He wasn't just a killer anymore. He was a protector. But what could he protect? The galaxy was ruled by those who cared only for power. They would stop at nothing to silence this human, to erase the prophecy forever. And if the assassin stood in their way, he knew what would happen to him. The assassin couldn't make a decision yet. He needed more information, more time. But one thing was clear, his mission had changed. The human was no longer just a target, they were a symbol, a key to something larger than he could understand. And the assassin would do whatever it took to uncover the truth. But there was no time. The assassin's former employers would soon come for both of them. The assassin knew it was only a matter of time before the galaxy's rulers moved to silence the prophecy, and the human would be caught in the crossfire. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's fate pressing down on him. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about the future of everyone. And for the first time, the assassin wasn't sure if he was ready for what that future held. But one thing was certain, he wasn't going to let the human die without a fight. The assassin stood silently, watching the human as they spoke. The words about the prophecy, about destiny, echoed in his mind. He had lived his entire life following orders, doing what he was told without question. But now, standing before this unassuming person, the foundation of his existence seemed to crack. The prophecy, the one that had always seemed like a fairy tale to him, was real. And this human was at the center of it. He had seen many faces in his line of work, each one marked for death, each one just another job to him. But the human before him was different. There was a depth to them, an awareness that radiated from their very being. It was as if they had already accepted their fate, yet knew there was more at stake than just their survival. The assassin could feel it, this human was not just a target. They were a force. The assassin took a step forward, his gaze locked on the human. He had to know more. "You really believe in this prophecy?" he asked, his voice steady, but beneath it, a flicker of doubt. "I don't just believe in it," the human responded, their eyes unwavering. "I live it. I've known since I was a child that my life was never meant to be ordinary. The galaxy has been trying to erase me, to suppress the truth, but it's not enough. It will never be enough. I will fulfill what I was born to do." The assassin was silent, digesting the words. In all his years, he had never encountered someone who spoke with such certainty, someone who understood their purpose so completely. It was a sharp contrast to the endless stream of faceless targets he had eliminated. Those targets had never had a story, never been anything more than a name on a list. But this human? This one had a story. And it was a story that could change everything. The human continued. "They want me dead because they know what I represent. The prophecy has been kept hidden for centuries. But those in power, the ones you work for, they fear what I can become. They fear that I'll take away everything they've built. The galaxy doesn't want change. It doesn't want a future where it's not in control." The assassin shifted, his thoughts churning. He had been sent to eliminate this person, this so-called chosen one. His orders were clear, and his loyalty had always been to those who paid for his services. But now, he was confronted with something that didn't fit into his cold, calculated world. What if the human was right? What if they were the key to the galaxy's future? He couldn't shake the thought. For the first time in his life, the assassin hesitated. The job, once simple, had become a tangled mess of uncertainty. He had killed for a living, never asking questions, never caring about the consequences. But now, those questions were impossible to ignore. The human was no longer just a job, they were a potential ally, someone who could lead a revolution. And yet, he had been sent to kill them. "I don't know what you want from me," the assassin said, his voice quieter now. "I'm just a tool, following orders. That's all I've ever done." The human's gaze softened. "You don't have to be a tool. You can choose to be more than that. You can choose to stand for something greater. There's a reason you're here, standing in front of me. Maybe you were never meant to be just an assassin. Maybe you were meant to help me." The assassin scoffed. "Help you? I've never helped anyone. I kill. That's all I know." "Maybe it's time to learn something else," the human replied calmly. "Maybe it's time to change." The words hit the assassin harder than he cared to admit. He had always believed his existence had no purpose beyond his work. He was just a weapon, a tool in the hands of those who controlled the galaxy. But here was a human, someone he was supposed to kill, telling him that he could be something more. It was a foreign concept, one that gnawed at him. The assassin stood in silence, struggling with the weight of the decision before him. He had been trained to take lives without hesitation, without remorse. But for the first time, he found himself questioning everything. He had always considered himself detached from the galaxy, from its politics, its wars, and its struggles. He was just a killer, a soldier who did what was asked of him. But now, he realized that he was part of something much larger, something that transcended the boundaries of his training. The human spoke again, their voice quiet but firm. "They won't stop coming for me. The ones who want to control the galaxy won't stop until they have me under their control or dead. They'll use everything they have to find me. But I can't do it alone. I need someone like you, someone who knows how to fight, to protect me." The assassin's gaze hardened. "I'm not a protector." "You can be," the human said. "I'm not asking you to change overnight. I'm asking you to make a choice. You can either help them kill me, or you can help me fulfill the prophecy and change the galaxy. The choice is yours." The assassin felt a surge of anger. He had been hired to kill. That was his role. But the human's words rattled him in a way he couldn't explain. The assassin knew one thing for sure: he had never been given a choice like this before. The galaxy had always been a cold, unfeeling place to him, a place where power and control reigned supreme. But now, the very foundation of that power was in question. He clenched his fists, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. He was a weapon, nothing more. But perhaps, just perhaps, he could be more than that. The human was right. The galaxy needed change. And if the prophecy was true, then maybe he could play a part in that change. The assassin took a long, hard look at the human, his decision hanging in the air like a fragile thread. "All right," he said finally. "I'll help you. But don't think for a second that I've forgotten who I am." The human nodded, their expression one of quiet understanding. "I wouldn't expect you to. But we have work to do." The assassin turned away, his mind still reeling. He had crossed a line, one he could never uncross. But in that moment, he felt a shift inside him. He wasn't just a killer anymore. He was something else. And whatever happened next, he would see it through. The assassin and the human moved quickly, gathering what little they needed before heading into the heart of the galaxy's most dangerous territories. The assassin's mind was sharp, calculating their next move, but even his cold precision couldn't shake the feeling that he was no longer working for just a paycheck. This wasn't the mission he had been hired for. The human had become more than a target, they had become his partner, and in this dangerous galaxy, alliances were fragile and fleeting. As they traveled through the galaxy, the assassin began to see the human in a new light. There was something different about them, something that no ordinary person possessed. Despite their young age, the humans seemed to know more about the galaxy's inner workings than anyone he had ever met. They spoke of ancient technologies, secret factions, and power struggles that span millennia. The human wasn't just a survivor, they were a key player in a much larger game. "You're different from the others," the assassin said one night as they camped on the outskirts of an abandoned city. "I've never met anyone who thinks like you." The human looked up at the stars, their expression distant. "I've spent my life running. I've had to think like this. Survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about knowing who to trust and who to destroy before they destroy you." The assassin nodded. He had learned that lesson early, but the human's words resonated with him. They weren't just talking about surviving physical danger, they were talking about surviving in a galaxy built on lies and manipulation. And in a world like that, trusting the wrong person could mean the difference between life and death. "We've got more enemies than I thought," the assassin continued, a new edge in his voice. "The people after you aren't just bounty hunters. They're part of something much bigger, something that controls everything behind the scenes." "I know," the human replied. "The prophecy is the key. The ones in power will stop at nothing to keep it from coming true. They'll use any force they can to destroy me, to prevent me from fulfilling it." The assassin's thoughts churned. He had always worked alone, had always been the one to strike first, to kill without hesitation. But this human wasn't like anyone he had ever encountered. They weren't a mere target, they were someone who could change the galaxy. And the assassin had no idea what would happen when they did. "They're not just coming after you," the assassin said quietly. "They're coming after everything that could come after you. They want to control this galaxy. They'll use you as a weapon, or they'll burn everything to the ground to keep you from realizing your potential." The human's eyes narrowed. "That's why I can't do it alone. There's more at stake than just my survival. If I die, the galaxy continues as it always has, broken, corrupt, and controlled by those who believe in nothing but power. But if I succeed, if I fulfill the prophecy, everything changes." The assassin felt the weight of the words. He had lived his life in the shadows, working for the highest bidder, never caring about the consequences. But now, as he looked at the human beside him, he realized something. He wasn't just an observer anymore. He was part of the story. They didn't have much time. The forces after them were closing in. The assassin knew that once the Galactic elite realized they had been betrayed, they would stop at nothing to capture or kill both him and the human. He couldn't afford to waste time. They needed a plan, and fast. "We'll need to find the source of the prophecy," the assassin said. "There's something hidden, something they don't want us to find. We need to get there before they do." The human nodded, determination in their eyes. "I know where it is. But we have to move quickly. The factions hunting me are already aware of our location. They're preparing for the final strike." The assassin's instincts kicked in. He was no longer thinking like an assassin, he was thinking like a protector, a guardian of the one person who could change everything. The human's destiny was now intertwined with his own. He would not let them fall. They moved under the cover of night, avoiding detection, making their way to the heart of the galaxy where the key to the prophecy lay. The assassin kept his senses sharp, knowing that every step brought them closer to danger. But with each step, he also realized something he had never considered before. He wasn't just protecting the human for the sake of a job. He was protecting them because he believed in what they could accomplish. He had seen enough destruction, enough corruption in the galaxy to know that it needed to change. And the human was the catalyst. The journey was perilous. They had to fight their way through rival factions, all of whom were desperate to claim the human as their own, to use them as a weapon. But with every battle, the assassin found himself growing more and more convinced that he had made the right choice. He had chosen to stand by the human, to protect them, and in doing so, he had become part of something greater than himself. When they finally reached the location of the prophecy, the human stepped forward, eyes focused, as if they were drawn to something invisible in the air. The assassin stood back, watching, waiting. He had no idea what the human would find, but he knew this was the moment that could change everything. The human raised their hands, and for a brief moment, the air seemed to shimmer with power. The assassin watched as the light around them shifted, as if the universe itself was reacting to their presence. And then, the ground beneath them trembled, and the hidden truth of the prophecy was revealed. The assassin's heart pounded. He couldn't explain what he was seeing. It was as if the galaxy itself had opened up before them, revealing secrets that had been buried for centuries. The human was no longer just a part of the prophecy, they were the prophecy, the key to a new future. "We have what we need," the human said, turning to the assassin. "Now, we need to stop the ones who would destroy it." The assassin nodded, but his mind was already working ahead. The battle wasn't over yet. The true fight was just beginning. He had chosen his side, and now, he would fight to the end to ensure that the prophecy came true, not just for the human, but for the entire galaxy. The galaxy's future was in their hands, and there was no turning back. The assassin could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him as he and the human prepared for the final confrontation. They had uncovered the truth, and now there was no turning back. The prophecy was no longer just a myth or a whisper, it was a living, breathing force that could reshape everything. But the powers that ruled the galaxy wouldn't let it come to pass without a fight. They would use every resource, every soldier, every secret they had to crush it before it could begin. The assassin stood at the forefront, his mind sharp and focused. His former employers, those who had paid him to eliminate targets without question, had already mobilized. They were coming for him and the human, determined to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled. He could already hear the distant hum of their warships, feel the approaching threat in the air. But this time, he wasn't just going to stand by and let it happen. He wasn't the same person he had been when he first accepted the contract. The human beside him had become more than just an ally, they were a symbol of everything the assassin had fought for without realizing it. The galaxy had been built on lies and power struggles, but it didn't have to remain that way. If the human fulfilled their destiny, if they became the catalyst for change, everything could be different. The assassin could sense it. This was the moment that would define the future. "We can't afford to let them catch us off guard," the assassin said, his voice low and steady. "They won't stop coming. They'll hit us with everything they have." The human nodded, their eyes hard with resolve. "We don't have a choice anymore. We've come too far to back down. The prophecy can't die here." The assassin's gaze hardened. They were right. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about ensuring that the truth they had uncovered reached the galaxy, that the future the human represented wasn't silenced by those in power. It was about fighting for a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant to have hope. As the hours passed, the assassin and the human prepared for the inevitable battle. The assassin's instincts were razor-sharp. He knew how to fight, how to survive. He had killed countless enemies over the years, but this fight felt different. It wasn't just about skill, it was about purpose. The human wasn't just the key to the prophecy. They were the key to everything. Then, the attack came. The first wave hit hard. The assassin had expected it, but nothing could truly prepare him for the fury of his former employers. They had sent their best, their most ruthless soldiers, and they came in waves, relentless and determined. The assassin and the human fought side by side, a force to be reckoned with. The assassin moved with precision, his every action fluid and calculated. His years of training, his experiences in countless battles, guided him as he took down the attackers one by one. But this time, he wasn't alone. The human fought beside him, their movements unexpected but powerful, as if they were connected to something greater. It was clear that the prophecy had given them strength beyond what any ordinary person could possess. The assassin fought through the chaos, his mind focused, but his thoughts were a swirl of memories, of everything that had led him to this moment. The faces of his past targets flashed before him, and for a brief second, he wondered how many of them had been pawns in a larger game, just like him. How many of them had been caught up in the galaxy's corrupt systems, just trying to survive. But there was no time for doubt now. He had made his choice. And he would see it through. The battle raged on, and with each victory, the assassin felt a strange sense of liberation. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just doing a job. He wasn't just following orders. He was fighting for something real, for a future that could be different. The human was the key to that future, and if they fell, everything would be lost. As they made their way to the heart of the galactic power structure, the assassin could sense the shift in the air. The final confrontation was coming, the one that would determine the fate of everything. He knew that his former employers would stop at nothing to see the human destroyed, to keep their control over the galaxy. But he was ready. He had chosen his side. And he would not let them win. The human turned to him, their expression calm despite the chaos around them. "It's almost over," they said, their voice unwavering. "We just have to get through this." The assassin nodded. "We will." The final confrontation came swiftly, as they entered the heart of the enemy's stronghold. The human and the assassin stood together, side by side, ready to face whatever awaited them. The galactic elites had sent their best to stop them, but they had underestimated the human's power, the power of the prophecy that now pulsed through them. The assassin was no longer just a weapon in their hands. He was the human's protector, their ally in this fight for a new galaxy. As they faced the forces that had controlled the galaxy for so long, the assassin realized that this was the moment where everything would change. It wasn't just the human's destiny that was at stake, it was the future of the entire galaxy. The battle that followed was fierce, a clash of wills, a clash of ideologies. The assassin fought with everything he had, his every movement a reflection of the years of training that had shaped him. But this time, his movements were guided by something deeper than just survival. They were guided by a purpose. And in the end, it was the human who stood victorious, their power undeniable. They had fulfilled the prophecy, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The assassin stood by their side, knowing that their fight had changed the course of history. The human turned to him, a quiet smile on their face. "We did it." The assassin nodded, his expression hard but his heart lighter than it had ever been. "We did." And with that, they stepped into the future together, no longer enemies, but allies in a new galaxy that had finally been set free. The aftermath of the battle was silent, the calm settling over the galaxy like a heavy blanket. The assassin stood with the human, both of them exhausted but resolute. They had done it. They had defeated the powers that had held the galaxy in their grip for so long, and now, a new world was on the horizon. The human had fulfilled their role in the prophecy, and in doing so, had shattered the chains that bound the galaxy's future. But even in the face of victory, the assassin knew that the work was far from over. They had removed the figureheads of power, the ones who controlled the fate of millions, but the galaxy was still fractured. There were pockets of resistance, remnants of old factions that would try to seize control. The assassin had always known that destruction alone wasn't enough to bring about change. The real challenge would be in rebuilding, in making sure that what had been broken didn't fall back into the hands of the corrupt. The human turned to him, their expression soft but determined. "It's just the beginning. The real work starts now. We have to help people see that this isn't about power, it's about freedom. It's about giving everyone a chance." The assassin nodded. He had known this was coming. There would be no rest, no moment to bask in their victory. The world they had fought for, this new galaxy, wasn't something that could be taken for granted. But for the first time, the assassin felt a sense of hope. He had been the tool of destruction for so long, but now, he could be part of something that was worth protecting. The galaxy had a chance at something better, something real. He turned his attention to the horizon, where the remnants of the battle still smoldered in the distance. The work that lay ahead would be monumental. They would have to rebuild governments, heal the broken systems that had once divided people, and stand against those who would try to impose their own control. The human was right. This wasn't just about taking down the old powers, it was about making sure they never returned. "We'll need allies," the assassin said, his voice steady, but the weight of the task ahead heavy in his words. "There's no way we can do this alone. The people we fought to free, they'll need guidance. They'll need leadership. And we can't let the power vacuum turn into another tyranny." The human nodded. "We'll find those who believe in what we're doing." We'll build something together. A system where everyone has a voice, where no one is above the rest. The assassin could see the fire in their eyes, the passion that drove them forward. He had never seen anyone like this human, someone with the power to reshape everything, but who still cared about the people. It wasn't just about their destiny anymore. It was about giving others the chance to make their own. We'll need to move fast, the assassin continued. The galaxy's not going to just let this happen. They'll try to undermine us, to drag us back into the past. But we have to move forward, no matter what. I know, the human replied, their voice unwavering. We'll be ready. They spent the following days on the move, reaching out to those who had fought with them, those who had stood against the old regimes. There were still pockets of resistance, smaller factions who had been overlooked in the chaos of the battle. They would need to unite everyone who believed in the vision of a new galaxy, a galaxy where power wasn't concentrated in the hands of a few, but shared among all. But even as they gathered their allies, the assassin could sense the growing tension in the galaxy. The elite had been defeated, but their influence hadn't disappeared entirely. There were those who still had the resources to fight back, to try and seize control. And there were others, more insidious, who had been waiting for the right moment to strike. The fight for the galaxy's future wasn't over. It had only just begun. One night, as they made camp on the edge of a once powerful planet now in ruins, the assassin found himself alone, standing at the edge of a cliff. The stars above were clear and bright, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel the cold distance he had always carried with him. The human had shown him something he never thought possible, a way to fight for something greater than himself. The human joined him a moment later, their presence grounding him. Thinking about what comes next, they asked softly. The assassin nodded. This won't be easy. There are still too many who want to hold on to the old ways. But we can't stop now. We've come too far. The humans stood beside him, their gaze focused on the horizon. No one said it would be easy. But we're doing the right thing. We're giving people the chance to choose their own future. The assassin exhaled slowly, his mind racing with the possibilities and the dangers ahead. He had been the instrument of death, the one who took lives without thought. But now, he was something else. He was part of a cause, part of a vision. And as much as he feared what was to come, he knew one thing for sure, he wouldn't stop fighting. The galaxy had been a battlefield for as long as he could remember. But now, it was a place of hope, of change, of potential. And for the first time, the assassin felt that maybe, just maybe, the future could be different. It would take time. It would take effort. But together, they could build a new world. And as the human stood beside him, ready to face whatever came next, the assassin knew that he wasn't alone anymore. They had fought for this future. They had won. And now, they would protect it together. The true battle for the galaxy's soul was just beginning.